If Gary comes. Okay. All right, let's see here. What's been going on? You had a good week so far? Or I guess, what is it? Monday? I'm not exactly up to date on what day it is.
I mean, I've been doing okay.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a pretty kind of mysterious how things are going. I mean, with your, I mean, the dream about Maine, that was a real kind of a commentary. Hey, Roy, how's it going?
Good.
So, Dawn got out. Yeah, we got a Dawn dream and a Gary dream, and so we're doing good. Yeah, Gary had a dream just recently, and then Dawn's dream is from I think August 13th. Let me put it in the chat if I can get it. Let me see here. This one is one that we're going to have to do in parts. It's, but I don't know. It's not that bad as far as complications. But I think we're going to need some help, a collaborative effort to get it. Let me see if I can get in here. For some reason I can't put the thing in the chat on with this laptop. I don't know why. How have you been doing, Roy?
Yeah, I'm good. Steady as she goes.
Yeah, I was reading something. I'm trying to get in here about the difference between Eros and Anima. Anima. This is Snowman says Eros is fiery and full of desire and wants things to happen immediately, and is always involved in the current moment, where the Anima is somewhat aloof, and she's moist and
Kind of like the swan.
Yes, exactly. Misty, and she's not. She is reluctant to have relationships where the Eros is all about relationships. There we go. Okay, now I'm ready. So let's go here. I did maybe after, if we got some time, I'd like to maybe review Charles' dream, but why don't we get started on this dream from Dawn. Dawn shared we had that thing, because Jan does not like to be recorded. We kind of had that sort of an unrecorded session, but one of the things Dawn said was that she had a dream. Can you tell us what that dream was again? The one that you had, it was, I don't remember what it was.
Was it the one where the I don't know, is it rude to say old man? The elderly gentleman, he said, he asked me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he said, what are you going to do when your children are gone?
Yes, what are you going to do when your children are gone? And when did he say that?
This was one that wasn't in my regular dream book, and it was before I started keeping dates on it. So if I had to guess, I would say that was probably 1.5 to 2 years ago.
Well, what are you going to do when your children are gone? I mean, it's sort of this idea of that we're not defined by our children, and this my niece says that her personal life just went away when she had children. I mean, she had to devote herself completely to the children. And then that thing that that Thomas Levin says, this woman who was having a near-death experience says, here's this voice and says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Well, I'm Jane Doe." She said, "I didn't ask you your name." I said, "Who are you?" And she says, "Well, I'm married to so-and-so, and I'm the mother of these children." She says, "I didn't ask you who you were married to or how many children you had. I wanted to know, who are you?" And he keeps going through everything she says to identify who she is. He says that's not answering the question, and so it is very, and you said that what you thought of that dream as is, I just had been looking up some things that had to do with, important questions. And one of them is, if you were going to die in 2 months and you had nothing, what would you do? And you had no family or anything like that. And that was what you said, that the reason you thought of that dream. Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Forgot to unmute.
Oh, okay. Well, we got a dream. I was going to put in the chat here from Dawn, and then we'll start on Gary's dream. So let's try to. If Tim comes, we'll try to finish up his dream, but we'll try to maybe spend 30 minutes on a dream. So if we don't get it done, we'll get it done next time.
If you want to skip mine, I don't care.
No, let's go through it. We haven't had one from you for so long.
She's got some serious crickets going.
Well, I love it. I mean, that is
Yeah.
so, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love crickets. I mean, crickets and locusts and things like that. Okay, all right, Tim's here. Let me get this thing in here. Well, that's great. I like it. All right, and let's see. Hi, Tim. How's it going? Great. Well, why don't we go through, let's see, we got about 90 minutes, so let's spend at least 20 minutes on Dawn's dream, but it's pretty long, so I think we're gonna need to spend do a couple of them, but we want to finish Tim's dream and then do Gary's dream. Gary has a very, very good dream. I mean, it's a really good one here. Let me see, where are we at here? Me feeling, and then I was on some winding stairs. Okay. I'm gonna have to put it in 3 sections here. Okay, let's see. On some winding stairs. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, I'm on some winding stairs. That's pretty much the end of the dream. All right. I was going to get in. Okay, going to get in trouble. Yeah. All right. Okay, because both Charles' dream and Tim's dream, I and Gary's dream about the slave thing, I think are clearer than we think. All right, now here it is. I'm going to put the first part in again. I don't think I'm going to have to put the first part in again. Let's see here. Yeah, Gary's is about Bryce Canyon, which is pretty interesting. Have you been to Bryce Canyon, Gary?
Yeah, actually, I have. It's very beautiful there. I mean, it's just
those
astounding.
those things
Spires.
are called hoodoos.
Hoodoos, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we took a little horse ride through it. We're going to be going there, I think next week, or maybe not. Yeah, we'll be going there next week. Okay, so anyway, let's see. You want me to read it? Let me read it real quick. Or anybody else can read it. Let's see here. It's called the Pink Ivory Necklace. My boss seemed mad that I was crying at work. I was crying because of being in a breakup. I have no idea who it was with. Someone I couldn't see gave me a compliment, but then my boss said, I don't think so about the compliment, considering how she's been behaving, crying at work. Then I was taking care of a patient, not my job in real life. It was Kevin Bacon. Wait, got it out again. Okay. Get Dawn back in here. It was Kevin Bacon, and he needed to be bathed. He had defecated on himself. There was a woman sitting on the other side of the bed in a chair, and the left side, if you are facing the head from the foot, so you're at the foot of the bed, she's on the left side. She was supposed to be helping me take care of him, but she would only sit there doing nothing. The whole time I was worrying that I wasn't doing enough and realizing that things that still had to be done. Then some unknown voice said, good then, about the things that still hadn't been done, because they said, now this other woman can do what is left, since she hadn't helped me at all. My feeling like I hadn't done enough and realizing what still needs to be done was happening in threes. I don't remember exactly how it was happening, but it just felt like there was little revelations coming to me about the situation in threes. Then something like the rewards happening in threes, so there's rewards happening in threes, but again, I don't remember how. I just remembered one of the things, the earrings. Someone holds out their palm and there is jewelry in their hand. I can't see this person, but only their hand. This is very mysterious. I think it is earrings. I looked at it thinking it was so pretty because it looked like a pink, creamy colored stone, possibly an elephant or maybe just a cube shape with ridges that reminded me of the shape of that animal. The person whom the hand belonged to told me, no, it is Ivory and it is for me. I was on a winding stairs, but not spiral, just rectangular. I jumped the rails and dropped down to the level of the stairs below. I think I did it just to prove something to a little girl or make her happy. I think I was going to get in trouble for breaking the rules. Maybe it is my boss again, and I'm being watched. I guess to see if I misbehave. Inside now, the next night I had a dream about threes again. In that one, there were 3 certificates up on the wall for my 3 children. In reality, I have only 2 children. That's very meaningful. Each certificate had a word on it to describe the child, which it belonged to, saying a different good word about each of them. Whew, that's amazing. You know, threes tend to be the number of male. So it's sort of a masculine number. But let's just go through it here. And okay, so first, it's called the Pink Ivory Necklace, the Pink Ivory Necklace. So, you know, something to do. First, ivory is this other than a pearl, it's the most valuable animal substance, I think. I don't know, maybe somebody can give me an idea, but pearls and ivory, you know, tend to be very valuable. And when you have one of those things, you really want to protect it. And, you know, the Eskimos used to carve things on walrus ivory, you know, that were just beautiful. Now, this authority figure is upset that we express emotion at work. Okay, and we are emotional because of a relationship that has come to an end. Now, this unseen person comes up several times. The unseen person compliments the ego, but this authority figure says, no, she unprofessionally expresses emotion at work. So, you know, the idea that the authority figure wants to repress any expression of emotion. So now this is a repressive animus, you know, some type of a one who's trying to repress our feminine qualities, you know. Now we're taking care of a patient, Kevin Bacon. Now I don't know much about Kevin Bacon. I kind of vaguely can see him in my head, but he's a fairly young actor. Does anybody know anything about him?
Isn't he the 6 degrees of separation guy?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I have this sort of vague image of him. Let me see if I can find it.
My recollection is
Yeah,
is
all
that,
right, let's just look it up.
you know, everybody has 6 degrees of separation. between
Yes, I
everybody
know,
else
from
in the world.
anybody, from anything. Yeah, he is the
Yeah.
guy. He's born in 1958, so he's 63 years old. He's the same age as my wife. He just let's see. His movies have been started in the 80s, but let me see if he's been in any famous. He hasn't really done anything since well, I mean, maybe there's some. He was let's see. All right, I just wanted to see his what movies he was in. I don't know. It's not. Let's see that. Go back here, Kevin Bacon. Okay. I usually go to IDMB or whatever it is. Let's see it. Anyway, he's a actor, character actor. Sort of reminds you a little bit of Matthew McConaughey or somebody like that. You know, he's getting a little long in the tooth. You know, but he's always been kind of a you know, sort of a, you know, there was this wonderful show. They only did one season of it where he was just this sort of almost a supernatural figure in this small town. And it was a really good series, but I can't remember what it was. It was only in one season. Here's a picture of it. Okay. Kevin Bacon. He's kind of a little bit of a kind of a cross between Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson. You know, not quite as hard nosed as either one. And you liked him in Flatliners too. Okay. All right. All right. And I was trying to remember that TV series he was in. It was, if you ever, it's only one season, but it was just, I could not believe how good it was. It was so good. Let's see. Let me see if I can find a TV series. I mean, it was
Don
one of the
mentioned
best.
Footloose.
What's that?
Don mentioned Footloose.
Oh, Footloose too. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I Love Dick, it's called. You know, and it is the most amazing thing. At the end of the series, this girl who was kind of in love with him comes and to his farm, and as far as the eye can see, he's got big boulders that go, you know, huge. Did you see it, Gary? Yeah, these huge boulders that are making sort of a snake-like thing as far as you could possibly see it. You just wonder how in the world it did.
That's the one that takes place in Marfa.
In where?
Marfa, Texas.
Oh
That
yeah,
art
Marfa,
town,
Texas.
you know, it's got that huge art institute out there. I mean, that part's actually
Yeah, but I mean,
true.
it's so good because he is such a, you know, he's just this absolutely just overwhelming character. And this
He's kind of
one
he's a
girl-
real primitive male, kind of a
yeah, he's a
cowboy
very
figure.
primitive male, and but if you haven't seen it, it's really worth watching. But anyway, now Kevin Bacon, this person who's, he's definitely masculine, yet he needs to be bathed. He's in a hospital bed because he is defecated. So the animus is, now we've encountered two animus. First is the authority figure. The second one is, and the second one is the one that we broke up in a relationship with, who's not mentioned. And then, no, we don't know who they are. And then the third one is Kevin Bacon, who seems to have made a mess of himself. He has made a mess of himself, and the anima must clean it. And he's very, he's just sort of inert. And now this female figure sits on his left side. So you would think that she's possibly the unconscious, the shadow, and she's sitting in the unconscious. She is supposed to help me, but remains passive. So the animus is passive, so is the shadow. Okay, now the ego thinks that it's in trouble because there's a lot of things that remain undone. And then this unknown voice comes in again and says, well, this is good because this shadow figure can do it. The one who sits on the left side passively. Just interesting that you've got the boss anima, you've got the unknown boyfriend, this very masculine figure who's just almost seems comatose, and then the shadow who's unbelievably passive. Now the unknown voice says there is a lot undone. It's not time for the shadow to do it. But ego is still thinks it has failed, and what needs to be done happens in threes. Now that's a number that is a masculine number. The reason it's the 4 is a number of wholeness, and that means that it is, it is a number of it has involved with its stillness, because it's one of its points is anchored in the unconscious or in life, in nature. Okay, so it doesn't have the ability to move because it is anchored in nature, where the male aspect is not anchored in nature. That's why it floats and it's up above. Now, interestingly, this is a wonderful statement that James Hillman says that the masculine attitude was the protest of life from being so unconscious. So it was the masculine broke off from this feminine that's anchored in nature because it wanted to become conscious of what was below. So it was sort of, now this is for humans, this is how ego consciousness developed. She's saying, or he's saying, it's sort of like all these beings were once only one sex. They would just reproduce by dividing. Then suddenly this male aspect comes out with its own DNA, and now it can flit around like a bee, and so it could foster more diversity because it's more mobile. But the reason it's mobile is because it's not anchored in child rearing. It's not anchored in nature. In the case of the ego consciousness, for the male ego consciousness. So anyway, everything that's coming at us is in threes. So it's all animus numbers. And what we're leaving undone has to do with relating to the realm of spirit, You know, this is why our rockets can't go up and they only go horizontal. We're having some problems relating to spirit, which is consciousness. Okay, now the rewards come in threes, but we don't know how. So we're getting rewards too. And one is earrings, something that hangs from the ear, that's suspended from the listening. Now, a lot of and you can correct me on this, Dawn, a lot of Dawn's relationship with the unconscious comes from a voice that speaks, you know, just this voice that speaks. Now, Jung said that there is a difference between people who experience the unconscious visually and they experience the unconscious through hearing. It's I can't remember what the difference is, but there is a difference. Okay, so anyway, the someone now another unknown can't see person holds out their hand with jewelry in it, and we think it's earrings. This is a gift. This is like the cornucopia or something. It's the unconscious giving us a treasure. You know, the treasure hard to attain. It's handing it out to us, and we look at it. This is a symbol of the self. Really is. We look at it, and it's so pretty, and it's a pink, creamy. So now, what's pink? It's a combination of the feminine and the masculine. It's the mixture of red and white. Okay, so it's a marriage of red and white, and it is maybe an elephant. It's the highest. That would be a godlike animal, or maybe just a cube shape with ridges that reminded me of the shape of the elephant. The person whom the hand belongs to tells me, no, it is ivory and it is for me. So this is really a gift from the center. Okay, we don't even see the person he's just saying. Now we're on a winding stairs. So that's it. Okay, for that part of the dream. Now we're shifting to from that happening. We're on a winding stairs, but not spiral, but rectangular. We jump the rails and go down to the stairs below. So it's sort of a little bit of a acrobatic aspect. And I think I did it to prove something to a little girl or make her happy. So it's an act of play or something like this. Now this comes after we get the gift. So after we get the gift, now we're having a relationship with the little girl within us, the childlike aspect of our youth. Suddenly there's this sense of the separation between us and our developing self has been removed. And I think, but yet we're still worried about this authority figure and being watched. And then the next night, she had the dream about she's only got 2 children, but again, 3 comes up, and there's 3 certificates with 3 children. So, is this girl she's trying to make happy through her playful thing that 3rd child, and who is herself? Well, what do you think, Roy? It is a long dream. It's going to take us a while to assimilate.
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that I see here is the good animus and the bad animus. And the bad animus is right in her face, very controlling. She's not allowed to express emotions. And the good animus seems to have to, he can't contact her directly. He's unknown. He can whisper something to her. You know, he actually gives her a gift. She sees his hand, but he can't interfere with the process. And I think the 3rd child is Dawn, and the child she's trying to impress the stairs is herself. And this is the problem. Probably the animus is contaminated with the shadow, which we see a lot of in our dreams. And she's grasping for self-realization. It's very difficult, but it's something that has to be born in her.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, you got the animus, the authority figure who is so negative. Then you have the unknown boyfriend who has caused us to experience emotion. Then you have this, what you said, this unseen animus. That means he's very related to the unconscious. He's not an outer animus. He's sort of invisible. And I think this comes up in Tim's dream too. And then the next animus is a scene of passivity, extreme passivity. One animus is about as close to dead as you can get. It's defecating himself, and then is also related to very passive shadow. So that's sort of the interlude between those two, and then comes the great scene, which I think is the reason we now have a relationship with this third child, or our own child, is the good animus. I mean, I don't know what we did to deserve it, but there's 3 rewards that come from the 3 things that need to be done. And one of them is this ivory mixture of the male and feminine, or the male and female, masculine and feminine. It's made of ivory and it's meant for you. What do you think, Gary?
Well, my interpretation is going to be a little different. So this seems like a liminal dream to me, like going through a doorway, kind of it's almost kind of a Hermes type of sequence, because it begins with, she's had a breakup. Something has been lost, so there's going to be a change because there's loss involved. And, and it has good and bad. And someone, the good is like, oh, maybe this is going to be good. And the bad is, it seems to come, you're uncertain. Change is hard, I think that's all that's saying. It just has that feeling. I'm not paying a lot of attention to exactly what's being said. It's more, I'm just going with the feeling of it. And then we have the taking care of the patient who's sitting within the Negredo, and so he's kind of in a primal state, he's, this is the pause. It's like you've gone through the doorway, but you don't just instantly become, you begin with the Negredo, and it takes a while to work with it. And so then, and so that's neither good or bad, it's just a sign. And of course, there's a lot of angst when you change, because you just don't know. It's like, well, what do I do? And that's the concern of like, oh, I haven't done enough. But then it's like, well, what comes out of growing from the Negredo? The rewards, the new thing that you become. And that's the reward part of it. And so then we have the child. And this is the, to get to the rewards, what's necessary? You have to go, to the childlike form. You have to become creative. You have to go with the instinctive, the intuitive. You have to lose the previous persona. It's that loss of the previous persona. That's why it's the new beginning. And that's why, you know, it's the child that, you know, that she's trying to impress, because that's the path forward. So that's, and the spiral staircase, or well, she says winding stairs, you know, it's never a direct path for any of this. So it's just like, it's just a story of becoming to me.
It is definitely, you know, what I just read in Hillman that that the anima, or the feminine, bears in her belly are becoming our child, and the only way that we can that child can come into being is through doing our dream work, which is making soul. It's making soul whenever what we're doing right now, you know. Tim, what do you think?
Man, you guys are so on top of this, I think. I wanted to read Don's comments here.
Yeah, please. I haven't seen them.
So I'm getting confused about what my center is, since the boss has a problem with me, but the unseen person likes me. And then she says, I've seen that particular child before in a dream. This one is an African-American little girl. There is another reoccurring little girl in other dreams. So I think that might be significant, that she's a dark child.
More related to nature, I would say. Less. I mean, I think that you had that dream about the African tribe. Remember?
Yeah.
I think they were more related. They are closer to the instinctive aspect. I mean, I don't think that's politically correct to say, but I don't know what the unconscious is saying. I don't think it cares about political correctness.
Right.
But keep going, I'm sorry.
Well, the one thing I thought of is, it seems to me that the first animus, the authority figure, maybe is a superego and just is trying to regulate the moral behavior of the ego, and saying, you know, this is not acceptable and that's not acceptable. And to me, that feels like a really powerful voice, because here in the patriarchy, that's always a masculine kind of disembodied figure out in ether somewhere. And the bedridden animus seems like more the personal that is disempowered and needs to somehow be healed. And it seems to me that the other feminine figure has not stepped up to her responsibility. So that seems like an indication that there's some relational element that needs to be engaged, despite the difficulty of dealing with the breakup and the authority figure. And I think of the spiral staircase in terms of, you know, the life cycle, or fate seems to drive us in a spiral, and I think of it as an upward going spiral. But in this case, it's a downward spiral, and maybe that's just about getting down into the unconscious and finding out those hidden meanings, like with the undeveloped child, you know, this beautiful innocent part that needs to be developed more further. It feels to me like that all fits together somehow.
Yeah, you really think of, you know, there's no such thing as linear growth. There's only this circumambulation around a center, and on each revolution, you get closer and closer. Now, what makes the little child happy? When we drop down, you know, we drop down, and then the little child is happy, you know. So yeah, that is let's hear what Charles has to say. I think that's all, everybody's been adding a lot of texture to this. What do you think, Charles?
Well, I'm pretty convinced that the boss is a personification of all these really kind of negative, overly critical thoughts that come to Dawn. She often seems much too critical of herself, and it's clear that it's totally unwarranted. But yeah, I think this guy is totally the personification of that part of her personality, and she needs to tell that guy, you know, take this job and shove it. And I mean it, because I think, and I mean it's even, I mean, even the image of, you know, it's her boss, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
her
yeah, it's her
boss.
boss. So she's literally working for him. And you know, especially if it's kind of a crappy job, you know, doing something that she doesn't really want to do for someone who doesn't appreciate it and is overly critical and, you know, destructive. You know, I don't know, just the image of it being the boss. She's working for him. She needs to tell him, you know, I quit. I'm going to find a different employer because this is, you know, no good. And I think when she starts to stand up to him, then Kevin Bacon is going to start to come around and, you know, open his eyes and be reanimated. So that's
so
just
beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, our animus will become more empowered when this taboo system, this, like Tim was saying, the super ego, this aspect that is very, you know, that is this overly critical voice. And, you know, this, I just want to mention, Dawn, is, you know, me personally, you know, I mean, you're always acting like I'm an authority figure. I figure we're all equal. I don't feel I have an answer to anything. You know, I very daring. You know, I will say what whatever comes to my mind, but I'm not a. But I think I just feel that everyone here is on the same journey. We're just at different points on the road, you know. So I've never felt well, like my wife. You know, I can't tell anybody what to do. You know, I can't tell our puppy what to do. So anyway, yeah, that is. I was trying to think of this one thing that Jung said, that the animus, the negative animus, it does this. We want to do something, and they say, it says, oh, why would you do that? You'll never succeed. You're never going to be good. You are going to fail. You know, whatever it is you do, you're going to be, it's not going to work. You know, it's going to be, I mean, it's just constantly in this attitude of suppressing action. Okay. Now, you know, this is an attitude in the puer that they understand everything, but they cannot act. And the aspect of the animus is you're trying to become conscious so that you can be an active person. And like the mother for the puer tries to keep him in the womb, the animus tries to keep us from going out and being a real independent person. It wants to keep us meek and mild and sitting in our room and not doing anything, you know, so it controls us by constant criticism, you know, just constantly criticizing us, you know. But let's review it. Yeah, because we want to get onto these other dreams, and let's come back to it. But I'm going to just review it real quick, and then we'll see if anybody's got any words. I was trying to find this quote of Jung where he says all this about how it's this thing. So anyway, this authority figure, this superego, as Tim is saying, and this one that we need to, Charles is saying we need to break up with him. He is criticizing us for our feminine attitude because we are close to relatedness, and we when our relationship with this male figure is broken off, we experience grief. And he's saying, no, you shouldn't experience grief. I mean, what he's saying is just, you know, that's not logical. That's not rational. Don't do it, you know. And then the unknown, this friend of ours, that we see 3 times, says that hey, you know, this is our child in whom we're well pleased. He says, I don't think so. Consider how she is, not logical. That word, you know. Okay, then this Kevin Bacon figure, which Charles says is going to remain sort of this primitive coma figure. And see, now, and Tim mentioned this, the passive shadow, it really represents the unlived life. You know, this is something Anne Ulanoff says, and Edward Enninger says, that the biggest shadow we have is our unlived life. So this shadow is showing us the aspect of us that's keeping us from just sits there and does nothing. You know, well, that's sort of this unlived life. And then the voice is saying there's things that need to be done. Well, good, your shadow needs to do it. You and the shadow need to integrate. And the shadow is the part that keeps us from doing things. This ego is recognizing they can't be, that they need to be done, but it's sort of relying on the shadow to do it. I mean, that part of us that's inactive. And so there's really a connection here between the awareness of ego and the inactivity that is our shadow side, you know, that won't operate with the unconscious. Okay, now, then suddenly comes up the 3s, the little revelations are coming to me in 3s. Be interesting if you can remember any of those revelations. But then along with the revelations come gifts from the unconscious. And one of them has to do with the earrings. And then this is so beautiful. I don't remember seeing anything this beautiful in your dreams, John, is that the unconscious offers us this magical stone. And we think it's related to the elephant. Of course, it is related to the elephant. It's related to that's the king of all animals, you know. And and we're thinking it has to be some relationship with the animal, but no, it's for us, and it's made of ivory. So it's like he's telling us it's made of gold, but it's made of instinctive gold, you know, ivory. And then after that, we're on the spiral growth. You know, this is growth. But in order to reach our child, we need to descend, and at that point, it makes the child happy, and we're going to re-relate to our youthful self, and still that superego hangs over it. And then the next dream, I think, is clearly related. There's a certificate Now, this is the unseen person, the unseen voice again. Each certificate has a word on it to describe the child, saying a different good word about each one of them. Different, that they have value. They have value. And the ivory has value. So a lot of this is about the feeling function too. You know, anything that is these highly valuable things. There's the highly, well, Roy, why don't you finish it up? Roy and Gary, and I'll just have one kind of a finishing thing, and then we'll come back to it though.
Okay, let me say a little something about Don writes. So I'm getting confused about what my center is, since the boss has a problem with me, but the unseen person seems to like me. Let me talk about that a minute. Dawn seems to be expressing herself non-verbally. I mean, she's crying. And then this bacon guy is defecating. That not a lot of words are needed there. And then there's the stairway. There's mischief and joy. These are wordless things. These are feelings and emotions that Dawn can freely express herself with. And the boss won't permit that. Now, the other animus who is unseen is not interfering with the way Dawn is expressing herself. He wants her to find herself. She has to find herself on her own volition. And so, you know, Dawn, you have to say, is it all right for me to defecate? Is it all right for me to cry? Is it all right for me to be mischief? Is it all right for me to have joy? I mean, you have to ask yourself that. What is wrong with that? Is that okay with you? I mean, is that something? Is that Dawn? Is that who you really are? Is that your center? You have to ask yourself that.
That's great, Roy. Thank you. I mean, it's Roy. That's very close to the organic aspect of it. What do you think, Gary? Do you have any just closing thoughts?
Yeah, I really like what Roy said on that, you know, and I think this is, it's a very earthy dream, you know, everything is, because it's emotions. In the end, you know, she jumps from the air down to the ground to, you know, to make the child happy. There aren't a lot of words. So, you know, I think what Roy said, and I think it's a liminal dream, you know, it's like, you know, passing from, you know, from something to something else, where you have to let go of some part of your persona, where you have to allow another part of yourself to come forth. So you can't lock into the old. That's all I've got.
It's very good. How about you, Tim? Do you have any final thoughts on it?
Well, I would just add to that. I think that's really helpful. That the feeling I get from this is that Dawn just needs to take courage in being, in expressing who she is. And I'm reminded over and over of one of Jung's most powerful statements, that the most radical thing you can do is be yourself, and everything takes courage. Every time you deviate from the norm, which is what individuation is, in expressing your individuality, it's a violation. And it takes real courage to say, you know, to hell with what everybody else thinks. This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to be in the world. And I don't think you ever need to apologize for that. If that's, you know, if you're really trying to be who you are, then that's what needs to be lived. And I really responded to this business of the passive shadow being the unlived life. I think that's right on.
Well, that's thank you, Tim. That's very. How about you, Charles? Do you have any final thoughts?
I mean, mainly just going to stick with what I said before, but also, you know, I guess remind yourself that you don't owe that boss anything. You're not the slave to him. You're an employee, you know. You don't, like, I think that's another part of the image too, is that you're just an employee. You don't have to be there. You don't really owe him anything. You got to turn the tables on him and tell him, hey, you're lucky that I'm even giving you my energy. And it's been long enough that you've supported this overly critical, kind of toxic inner figure. And yeah, a total transfer of energy needs to happen from the boss to the Kevin Bacon character, because no transformation and growth can come under the rule of this tyrant. And yeah, just have this, you know, take your job and shove it song be your theme song for right now. So yeah, that's all I got.
Well, and the job that we're going to shove is really being see, the problem with the animus is the animus needs to serve it can't control us. The anima needs to its proper role is to be the conduit to meaning and to the spiritual realm, but it's not to control us. That we need to, in our feminine body, we need to say, no, we are in control here. Not, and the animus, this is the same thing with men too. You know, Jung says that men who don't realize that they can't, who don't become conscious of the anima or the feminine within themselves, tend to chase real women around like boys all their life, you know. And the idea is that in the case of the anima, it needs to introduce the man to the archetype of life, and and for the feminine, it should not control her with all these critical statements. Like Charles is saying, we need to say we are not going to follow your. Do you see what the good animus is doing? It is introducing us to the symbol and to the archetype of meaning, and it does it through this is for you. This image of the feminine and the masculine, the treasure hard to attain. That's meant for you. And so so we have, this is the dream about the real animus, and its real role in our lives is to introduce us to meaning and to meaning, really. And so it's just I don't remember when we've seen the real animus like this before. The one that is not like the one one in the pit, you know, who's is the black minister or something. What you right? You remember him, don't you? That one, yeah. What was he?
Yeah. Well, there was one that she was trying to get out of the pit, and it was an animus out of the pit, but he really couldn't help her. But he was showing her the way. But she fell back into the pit with this black man. He wasn't going to show her way. He was glad that she fell back in the pit.
And he had what, a missing ring on his finger?
Yeah, he had like a wedding ring on his finger. He took off and he hit it.
So this anyway is showing us that this critical animus cannot control us anymore, like Charles says. And once we get rid of that, it will animate this. The unseen animus, I think, is really the self, you know. and the self is kind of expressing. It could be the wise old man too, you know, but it is definitely a one who is showing us the true role of the animus in women is to provide meaning to the symbol to us. In the case of the anima, we need to, the males are in, well, they always say, women or the feminine is earth in need of meaning or life in need of meaning, and men are the spiritual meaning logos aspect who are in need of life. So but I think this is just a fabulous exposition of the archetype of meaning and the critical animus at the same time. So let's, Dawn, do you have any thing to add to it yourself? Oh, okay, you don't. Okay, well, that's fine, but will let's think about this one. Okay, now we got 36 minutes left. Why don't we spend about 20 minutes apiece on, first we'll start, try to finish Tim's dream, and then let's start on, let's see, on Gary's dream, which is a very good one. Okay, do you want to reread this, Tim? And then we'll let's try to. We got close last time, but I don't think we got any cigars.
Okay. Old friend stranger. Okay. Later in the grocery store, my buddy identifies Dominique, who is sitting behind the checkout counter in the grocery store. I can see her from a distance. So I'm inside the store, and I think I recognize her, but I don't. I go up to her and she greets me warmly, and I think she must have confused me with my brother. We start talking about ancient history. She asks me about his acting, and I tell her about the play he did in 1978. I'm trying to remember our history, and she mentions those 8 years in Bozeman, which doesn't apply to either me or him. But I carry on. She asked for my phone number and starts to tell me hers. We crowd together into a little booth behind a bench where an older couple comes to sit as we talk. The man of the couple rests his elbow on my folded knee and asks if it's okay. I say something about us being crammed into a tiny cart. I'm standing in a little back porch mudroom talking about the theater where another guy mentions that they performed every year from 48 to 88 or some long period like that.
Okay, all right. Now this is, that last part is very, remember it means of the Lord or belonging to the Lord, Dominique. And I don't know if you guys remember that song when I was growing up, it was in the 60s, the singing nun who sang Dominique, I don't know what the translation of that is, but it's anyway, it's a beautiful song. But anyway, Dominique is one who is of the Lord, so she is some animus that's very close to the self. So she's close. She's sort of like the spiritus rector, the one who goes up to see the spiritus rector. And your buddy, your helper, now points her out to you, and she's sitting behind again a counter. Now in the grocery store, this is the place where food is provided, but also it is the place where one world brings things that the other world needs. So this is why it's related to Hermes, why Hermes is called the god of commerce. One world brings things the other world needs, and so she is working in this store which is related to Hermes, the messenger between two worlds. and we can see her from a distance. We think we recognize her, but we don't. Yes, we do. We recognize her. There's an aspect inside of us that tingles when we see her because we have seen her before. But the ego consciousness has no the ego consciousness, or personality number one, is totally unfamiliar with her. Personality number two knows her well. Okay. Now we think she must have confused me with my brother. Okay. Remember that where Jesus, his brother comes, you know, and then they combine and become one. That's in this thing where Mary comes and sees this being. So it's actually the brother is not our real brother, but is either this person that we remember Kevin sees this reflection of himself in the mirror, and yet the eyes look at him with great knowingness that he's never seen in his own eyes. So anyway, you've confused me with my brother. Now, this whole thing that she's talking about is going to be about her connection with our personality number two, that aspect within us this right below. Now I know I'm going to get yelled at by everybody because they're going to say I'm completely wrong. But anyway, we start talking about ancient history, and she asked me about his acting, and I told him about the play in '78. I think she's talking about us, you know, not about your real brother, unless he's the shadow, you know. And then she mentions those 8 years. Now it's a mythological term in Bozeman, which is also a mythological place. So there's a period of in our lives, 4 times 4 in Bozeman, in the inner world. There's something to do that she's this is everything she's telling us is just very pivotal. Now she asks you for her phone number and starts to tell us hers. She wants a relationship with us. But then we crowd together in so now the ego can't comprehend this. Right now the ego is in too tight of a space to comprehend it, you know. Now this is sort of my take on it. I want to hear what everybody else says, but you know, I tend to be a little overly positive too with some of these things. So anyway, that's the whole dream. We meet that one person who is of the Lord. She knows us. We know her, but ego has forgotten. Okay, but she's telling us, she's talking to that person in us who recognized her, you know, and she's saying that there's this. I mean, it's this relationship with us that we need to reawaken in ourselves, you know, somehow. Okay, now after that happens, and then it becomes up this obstacle of that our ego is too little, too cramped to comprehend it. Then suddenly it flashes forward to a little back porch. So the back porch is the one that's far away from the front of the street where life flows. This is one that's far away from life. So it's the back porch. You know, you always return to Eden by the river that was at your back when you left it. So it somewhat represents the inferior function, the one that's not dominant and in the front. And it's related to the earth. It's the mudroom. Okay. And then he mentions something about 48 to 88. 40 years. You know, now that, how long did Moses spend in the wilderness? Spent 40 years, an eon of time. And it's also 4888. You know, so it's all related to the inner world of fours. The realm of Barbello, as it says in Judas Iscariot, in the book Gospel According to Judas, when he sees Jesus, he says, I know you come from the immortal realm of Barbello. And Barbello is this sort of Isis figure whose kingdom is of the four. Now this comes from, you know, about 80 AD. You know, it's just amazing. But 4888. Okay, Roy. Now let's hear some reality now.
Okay. I like to tie this dream in with the dream that Tim talked about before this, where he had this Persian girl's diary or personal writings, and they were taken away from him abruptly, and he had to deal with these security people and the robot and stuff, and the word was pass. He needed a pass. Well, that could be like a pun for passion or passive. So in this dream, it's very passive, you know, and he's trying to relate, but the only thing that's kind of happening is like a walk into the past, and it's not even him; it's his brother or something. It's like sentimental, and sentimental is an emotion, but that's not the emotion. That's not the flint, the steel hitting the flint. And I was going to read that quote. I didn't have time last time, but I'm going to read it this time. And see,
Oh, good, because I couldn't find it.
And see if it can apply. Okay, this is CW 9-1, the archetypes of the collective unconscious, paragraph 179 and paragraph 184. The stirring up of conflict is a Luciferian virtue in the true sense of the word. Conflict engenders fire, and fire of affects and emotions, and like every other fire, it has two aspects, one of combustion and the other of creating light. On the one hand, emotion is the alchemical fire whose warmth brings everything into existence and whose heat burns all superfluities to ashes. But on the other hand, emotion is the moment when steel meets flint and a spark is struck forth. For emotion is the chief source of consciousness. There's no change from darkness to light or from inertia to movement without emotion. And in the other quote, page 184, a complex can be readily overcome only if it is lived out to the full. In other words, if we are to develop further, we have to draw to us and drink down to the very dregs what, because of the complexes, we have held at a distance.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for reading that.
Well, you know, one of the things I think is, Tim, all of these dreams are so beautiful. I just forgot about the dream of the Persian book of Persian poems. But what Marion Woodman said that she would do is take her best dreams and she would link them together in a chain, like a chain, you know. And I mean, if you were to take the most beautiful aspect of every one of your dreams and put them together, I mean, this would be a beautiful, beautiful image. The Persian book of poems that's stolen away from us. Now, in this case, it's the, I really think there is an aspect in us who is very familiar with soul, but then there's an aspect in us that can't connect with her, but we feel it. Sometimes, I don't know. What do you think, Gary? I would rather hear you try to describe it.
Well, I'm really torn on this because, you know, I see what Roy's saying, and the, you know, the flint meeting the stone, you know, I mean, the emotion, the passion, it's just missing. And it's like the mistaken, recognition. And yet, I sort of feel like, no, she is from the other side. And it's sort of like, okay, I like what you said, Craig, because, the language that we speak today, we speak in prose, and, maybe, I feel like what she's doing is she's speaking mythologically. She's speaking in sort of the poetry, and the, one of the most important things that we can do is, learn to form our own narrative, our own story of, of who we are and what our values are. And so to me, I think, maybe this is an appeal to reform your story and to, and to put it into mythological terms. And the problem is that, you're not connecting with that, it's not stirring up the passion. It's not causing you to act. So, that's all I've really got to say. But I can see what Roy's saying, and yet, I like what you had to say on her coming from the other side, and, the mythological aspect of this.
The one who's of the Lord. This is what what Hillman says, that what we should be asking of any history of our life is not what happened, but what happened to soul. Not what happened today, but what happened to soul today. Now I think what this is saying, it's sort of a reverse, where we've been seeking the House of Four Women, and we've been seeking Elise and her play. Now we're pointed out to her. Why would they point out Dominique to her? Us. And why do we really recognize her in one sense, but in another sense don't recognize her? And her name, Dominique, she's of the Lord, and and everything she says, those 8 years in Bozeman, and she's connecting with that. I mean, there's just an aspect here that I think this is where ego is blind to the soul, to the real soul, but not completely blind. We feel, there's a feeling, a vague feeling of recognition, but the conscious mind is not divorced from feeling, but we can feel something in ourselves of recognition, but we can't conceive of it conceptually. Okay, so I think that's the disconnect here. There's a feeling within us that we know her, because we do know her, but conceptually we're far from her. Let's say, what was it they said about the sage of Samos? He lived far from the gods, but in his mind he was at home with them. That's kind of what they said. A sage of Samos, I think, was Pythagoras. But he lived far from the gods, but in his mind he was at home with them. What do you think, Charles?
I mean, I tend to agree with Roy on this one, though. I mean, I can't really, trying to piece together this dream to make anything coherent is difficult to me, but I understand where Roy's coming from as far as there's just no like contact, there's no spark, it's very indirect. It's like not even person to person. It's like person to person's brother, and everything happened in the past, not in the present moment. And it's just very, to me, it's a very kind of cloudy dream. But what that means for the individual that dreamed it, that I don't know, the relationship to this figure is totally indirect. There's no intimacy at all in any sort of relatedness. It's like any relating done is done through some sort of bypass. This is the way I'd put it. We can only talk about things in the past. We can't talk about each other. We have to talk about someone else. It's like there's a bypass being used in the relationship between the people. But yeah, no, I think, I agree with what everyone said. I don't have too much to say on it of my own accord.
Well, Roy said last time that it had this third person quality to it, which I think you're hinting at, Charles. But I would say this is, let me just ask it. It takes, I think that really what is the magic of this whole thing we're doing is to get it through our thick heads that this being is alive and it's real and it's within us. Now, I say, what if science, somebody wrote a paper and said, yes, the soul in you is a living being and it is not you. And it is very sad that we neglect it. And it makes it ill, and through it being ill, we're ill. So I think that the real hurdle and the obstacle, well, what Jung used to say, he says, it's like I tell someone, he's talking about this same problem. He says, it's like I tell someone they have a rattlesnake in their pocket. And he means it. There's a rattlesnake in your pocket. And he says, they just look at me blasé, just, oh, really? No, it's a rattlesnake and it's alive and it's in your pocket right now. It's here. Now, see, this is the other thing. Is it here now? Is it here while we're speaking right now? Is it alive in the room right now? Yeah, it is, and how do we, and so what is all the alchemical stuff says, she says to us, don't judge me because I'm black and covered with mire. It's your lack of light that you give it me that makes me thus, So anyway, Tim, would you have any final comments on it?
Well, no, all of this stuff is so rich. I've been just scribbling notes here, and I think I need to spend some time dialoguing with it and trying to unfold it, but really rich stuff. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, well, I would say that is something, like I say, I when I go down doubtful, I say to the anima, I hate that guy that doesn't believe in you. Tell me he's an idiot. And then she says, I said this last time, but you said it reminded you of Job. But she says, who do you think you are? Where did you come from? You really think the ego created your body, your mind, your eyes, your ears, and all that, your heart? Who's the king of your heart? Not you. Anyway, let's try to, at least Gary, let's just introduce your dream here. Let's see if I can get it in the chat here.
Got it if you don't. I can paste it.
Yeah, okay, well, you go ahead then. Yeah, this is a
Oh.
very important dream. It really is very important. And by the way, Tim, your dream was very important too. And even though it seems a little, at first, I think it is a dream of a different quality than any other dream that we've had, because it's the anima reaching out to us in a way, and it's reaching out to us, and yet we don't have recognition. Okay, do you want to read the dream, Gary?
Yeah, so I call this one the earthquake. I'm walking along a forest trail high in the mountains. On the one side is a steep drop off with spire-shaped rock formations like Bryce National Park. There are tall evergreens growing between the rock formations. A couple with a little girl goes by me. At one point, the girl comes running back towards me and then jumps off the side of the mountain. She ends up a ways down the slope, halfway up a tree, clutching it. I think that I should go and help her get back up to the trail. I begin to descend, and at one point, I too am partway up a tree. I move to go down the tree to reach her. She's still farther down the slope. But the mountain begins to shake violently. The rock formations seem to be made of boulders stacked precariously, and they move in ways that seem like they must fall, but they don't. I'm unable to move.
You're frozen. Yeah, well, let me just show you a picture of the hoodoos. They're unbelievable. Look at these. Doesn't that look like some?
Yeah, and that's exactly what these things were like.
Yeah. Now the Indians say that each one of those is inhabited by an ancestor. So these are all these ancestors they're like people here in this canyon. So it's sort of a like almost a graveyard, or it's a sacred place, in other words. So we're walking along a forest trail high in the mountains. So the ego is in the unconscious, but it's in the spiritual realm. It's not in the soul area, so it's up high. And on one side, there is a steep drop into soul. Okay, now I had this dream that I was going to the dog park, and we come to the front door or the front gate, we open it up, and there's a drop of about 20 feet. We're too high up. I am too high up to get into the instinctive realm. I need to drop down a little bit. So now on one side there is a steep drop, and the depths loom before us. Just this drop into the unconscious, and then there's all these spire-shaped hoodoos. They could represent. There are things in the unconscious that are sprouting up from the depths. Now they are of course made of rock, and like said later in the dream that they can be shaken up, but they seem to represent something that comes up from the depths. It's tall. It's a tower, but it's not a tower in the outer world. It's a tower that comes up from the depths, and it could have a phallic aspect, but that means it's the creative aspect. Now it's interspersed with tall evergreens, rooted things among the phallic. Now a couple comes along with a little girl. So there is Gary, there's the mother and father, and Gary and the little girl. So it's this quaternity. Now she has passed by us, but then she turns, comes running back towards me. So she's somewhat addressing us. She's running back towards us. And then she jumps off into the depths. The anima, this anima child, jumps off into the depths. Now, she doesn't go all the way down. She's halfway between the upper world and the lower world in a tree. And she's perched there. We descend to her level. You know, this is the idea of you know what Annette said. Why didn't the Silkies? Why did it always end sadly? Because you needed to become a swan. So you know, Gary is going down to her level. He's meeting her on her level. You know, and he reaches her, but at that moment, what does an earthquake mean? You know, the foundations shake. Yeah, you know what Jung said one time that in the Red Book that he who falls into the chaos or who falls into the depths finds out that the bottom sway. You know, if you fall into the depths, you find out that the bottom sways, goes back and forth. But anyway, these very carefully balanced things that come up from the depths are now they don't really fall, do they, Gary? It's just a premonition that this is dangerous to these.
Oh, they move just huge.
They move.
And it's like,
They
and you
just
look
go.
at it like, how is this not coming down?
Yeah.
And
So
you
they're
know,
resilient.
yeah.
That's important.
And like any movement that either of us makes sets everything going.
Yeah, and we are frozen. So the ego is frozen in this position. There is movement, but it's these mysterious spires that come up from the floor of the depths that we have descended into to meet the anima at her own level. Okay, what the anima child? What do you think, Roy?
Oh, yeah. I get this. I don't know where I'm getting this from, but I've been getting this for a long time. That Gary has this connection with this little girl. He doesn't understand how important it is. It's almost like he doesn't want to deal with it. And first time I saw it was the dream. I don't have a copy of it, but he was with these people, and then he had to go upstairs in the attic, and there was like this apparatus with something in it. He had to lower the water, and it was really hard to get up the stairs. Like the last sentence in this dream says, I am unable to move. So he's trying to make the connection again with this thing. I feel like it has a connection to that dream. And it's a very difficult thing to do. It takes tremendous will. But it seems this time his heart's in the right place, that he desires to connect with this little girl. I don't know what all this means, but that's what I'm picking up.
And that's a very good linking. That was something to do with water in the second level. You know, it's beautiful. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I'm really struck by the parallel between the shapes presented here. You've got interspersed towers of rock, which are brittle and fragile and subject to gravity, and the same shape in a living rooted form that is flexible and sort of laughs at gravity. And the ground shakes in a rooted being, and there's no effect. And so somehow both of these figures, the ego and the girl, have found themselves clinging on to the rooted aspect. There's something that I find really meaningful about that. And the movement creates this rumbling in the hoodoos that is dangerous for them. So I'm kind of thinking about logic and the way that we stack up these solid determinations about meaning or reality in the outer world that oftentimes get so high up they're very precarious, and if one slips out of place, the whole thing comes tumbling down. But the rooted aspect is always resilient, and that's the life-giving part that I think us men find so hard to attach to. But I think that's what this is about.
Sort of the harmony between the organic and the inorganic. You know, here's this. He who falls into the chaos knows the bottom sways. What do you think, Charles? We'll finish it up next time.
I don't know. I'm not really sure what to make of this one, but I think people brought up some really good points. I don't know. I need to think about it more.
Okay, well, we'll finish this one up next time, and maybe if anybody has any thoughts more about Tim's dream or Dawn's dream, let's bring those too, and then hopefully, I know Charles will have a dream, but Roy, maybe you can bring us one too. Maybe it could even be a recent one. But anyway, you know, thank you so much, Dawn. Send us another one. And Tim, you keep these coming. I'm really saying, I do think you've got that little necklace that Marion Woodman's talking about, because those are all so rich. You know, they're very rich. And the other thing is, I don't think maybe we get it, but they're incredibly intimate and personal too, about a problem that needs to be addressed. Anyway, well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time, next Wednesday, I guess. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah. Good night.